Alright, so in this session, we will discuss how we can leverage something called savable data page. We learned about the read-only data page in the last session. Savable data page, what's the purpose? A savable data page is used to fetch the data from a source. Once you fetch that, it is available on your clipboard, right? It is available on your clipboard once the data is fetched. The additional thing is that you can modify the data. Sorry, you can modify once the data is loaded. So when you go to your clipboard, usually the read only data pages list here, right? These data pages, whatever thread request and node level, you cannot modify them. You can just look at them. If you try to modify the value of the savable data page on the clipboard, you will get error. But there are two other data types, savable and editable. We'll talk about the editable later. They are you can actually modify the data on the clipboard once they are loaded. So anything that you can modify comes under user pages. Any named page, unnamed page, properties, or even editable and savable data page. See, these are all data pages. D underscore means data pages, and they are coming on the user in the user pages category. That means either they are editable or savable. So your savable data page when you will use will come under the user pages category. So you can very well modify the data that you have loaded using savable data page on the clipboard, and then you can issue a save on the savable data page, which will eventually save the data to destination, whatever destination you select. The important factor here is, which means that when you create a savable data page, you need to define two things. First, fetch mechanism, how you are going to fetch the data. And second, save mechanism, how are you going to save the data and where you are going to save that. This is additional. In the read only, we did not have this save mechanism, but in the fetch, we fetch is always there. In any data page, fetch is going to be there. So let's see how do we do this. Okay, so we have a data class customer. I'm going to continue with the customer, and I'm going to create a new savable data page. So create data model data page. First I will modify the data. So it's basically to insert. I'm going to use the same data page for both purpose, update or insert. First record. Okay, customer, that's okay. We are going to deal with one record at a time. So we will have just page structure. This is the object. Now this time, let's see, at the moment you only defines read only, sorry, data source as only, right? You do not have anything else for read only. As soon as you change it to savable, another section comes in, the save option. How are you going to save the database? So we will have to define that too. So how are we going to fetch that? We are still going to ask the users to provide the customer ID or CID. This is mandatory. It is needed for users to provide the CID in order to work on that. So I have the customer ID. I can use the lookup to fetch the data from the customer class. and I will pass. Okay, one more thing. If the class key or the parameter that you need to pass to this lookup is named same as the parameter on the data page, cid same, so you do not have to explicitly specify param.cid. You can simply pass the current parameter page. It will automatically pass it. All right. Now it is database. It is basically Pega is directly connected to that class, so you can use database save. Other option is you can call a connector or API to save it somewhere else, robotic or activity and all that. In our case it's simple, so we will be just using the database customer database to database save, where we will have to specify the class to save the data directly. Okay, that's it. This savable data page is ready. Now this is I'm going to demo in update first, okay, and then continue with the insert. So now let's go to the work class and open that section when we have the customer record in the flow action. So create was the name of the section. So update means that existing customer, right? So this section was for if new customer, no, that means this is the existing customer. If new customer, I'm going to delete this because we will be in call doing the same thing. So there is only one customer section that is embedded at the moment, that will run for old customer. We will change it to for the new customer as well later, or let me just change that visibility is no longer required because we will be using the same for the new as well. So visibility is always, this is going to be displaying, but I'm not going to use read only. First of all, this should not be read only, it should be auto, because we want the user to be able to edit the record as well, or you can say editable always. And I'm going to replace this data page with savable, so that whatever data you insert on the section, that will be going into the savable data page. It insert cust record cid cust id, that's where we have stored. So this time it is going to, when you reach to this section, new or old, for the new there will be problem, but for the old it will be running smooth. We will have to handle the new. So it is going to fetch the record from the database and make you show you in the editable mode, so you can edit it there as well.
Mahesh, one cloud. So
Mm.
we used CID as the uh, key, right? Not
Yes,
cust
but
ID.
on the work page you are accepting the customer id from the user on the cust id property, so that's
Okay,
what you're
okay.
passing. Yeah, so let me create a case. CID is on the data page. So in the data page, when you're calling the data page, you will have to pass the customer
First,
ID with actual
uh,
value. That is in the cust ID. That will be put into the CID parameter. Okay. So here, if I say no, so this property is cust ID. Okay. That's where we are customer is inserting, right? 3001. Now continue. See, the customer record is available. If you look at the clipboard, so d underscore update insert. See, one record for customer ID is loaded. Right now, the DOB is 9/1 January 2023. You can update the records now, right? So, for example, I want to update this mahesh@mm.com. This update will be visible to the clipboard when you submit it. but it is not. See, it's a savable data page. Let me create it. I have submitted the form. Will the data be reflected? Let's look at the clipboard. On the clipboard, the changes will be reflecting. See, email ID got reflect changed, but in the database, this is still so it did not get updated. Well, it doesn't get updated automatically. We will have to update it. We will issue an update command. Okay. So to update a data page, you have three options. Okay. First option is that you can see submit application. After that, you can use a shape. There is a shape called update data page, save data page. And here you can specify which database to save. So you specify the data page, you pass the parameter, right? So that's one option. And then you connect it to this and then this. But there is also an option on the flow action. So if you open this submit flow action, in the post processing, we can specify savable data page here too. In the post processing, savable data pages, if you add your data page here, it's a conditional. When you want to execute it, we want to always execute it. So from there too, that's ID. So if you're once you complete the flow action, the save command will be issued by Pega to save the data page. Now let me run another case. Remember, it's in the flow action, post processing, savable data page name, and the parameter you will have to pass. No. So when you reach here, you are actually on the create flow action. Once you submit it, that save data page will be called. And before that, you can modify the data. So now whatever you modified is going to be on the data page. And when you create it, the save data page will be called. So your changes will be reflected back to the database. See, that's
Yeah,
how.
Mahesh,
Mhm.
sorry, Mahesh. Yeah, Mahesh, so before submitting form, so we are seeing updated data here. So for example, if you cancel there from to
As
come
soon
to
as your
process.
save data page is, if you cancel it here before this screen, then it will
Hmm.
not be saved. Only if you submit,
Okay.
then only the flow actions, post action will be executed. Okay. All right. So this is okay. This is for the existing record. What about the new record? See, the problem here with the new record is that there is no record in the database table. The lookup is going to look for a record which is not there in the database, so you cannot use it. Okay, lookup cannot be used. So there are two, three challenges with the new insert. Let me walk you through one by one. The first challenge is if it is a new record, what is going to be the customer ID? So this is very challenging situation. What is going to be the customer ID if it is a new record? Well, you will generate a new customer ID. When will you generate a customer ID? When the value of new cust is changing. Whenever the value of new cust is changing and the selected value is yes, you should ideally generate a new customer ID. If the value is no, then you will clear any generated customer ID and let the customer enter that. If it is yes, you generate one. So how do we do that? Interesting. This is the flow action, and this is the section where we are actually asking the user to insert or make the selection whether new or old and customer ID. You guys know that data transform is a rule to that we use to initialize value, transform value, and generate certain values as well. So on the change of this field, the new customer ID, I'm going to run a data transform that will generate and clear customer ID as per the requirement. Okay, so click on the pencil icon of the new cust drop down. Go to the actions tab. This is a new concept. Please pay attention and create an action set. This is the event and action thing. Okay, event is whenever you are changing the value. So click mouse click double click over, there are several keyboard event, but the thing that we are interested is in change. Whenever you are changing the value of new customer, I'm going to run a data transform. Action is run a data transform. There are several, we will continue to learn from now onward. The data transform is set reset. We need to reset it as well. For example, if someone selected as new, so you generated it, later they change it back to old, so you need to clear the customer ID value so that the user can enter. So set and reset cust ID. That's the data transform I'm going to create. And this data transform will do a very simple check. It will run when you change, and the condition is when the new cust value, sorry, what was the property name? New cust. When the new cust is yes, then you need to generate a customer ID. So here you see this icon, that's where you call certain function. There are function to generate some numbers, okay? Some ID, especially there's a function called generate ID that can be leveraged as well. So click on this configure icon and browse. Click on the browse, you will get and generate ID. So this will ask you to provide a prefix. So the prefix is, let's say, C, and it will automatically generate a number C1, C2, whatever it is. You can test it. So see, it generated a number. All right. So we will generate a number whenever the new customer value is yes. Otherwise, we will, if it is no or something, so we will just do remove the value of the customer ID. Remove cust ID. Whatever is the value of this property, remove this. If yes, then only generate it. Let's go back and save it. And we will show the customer ID now every time. It's just that if it is yes, then we will it condition for visibility is always, it's always going to be visible. Okay, but it will be read only when it will be read only when new customer ID is yes. We need to show that as well, right? Let's show that. So yes, if it is new customer, then it will be read only, otherwise it will be editable. Simple concepts, small things, you just need to connect the dots. Let's run the case. So at the moment, okay, ideally, unless we make a selection, this should not be visible. So let's do that as well. The visibility of this should be that the new customer ID value is not null. So visibility is, sorry, not disable, it's visibility. So visibility is that new customer ID value should not be null. Is not null. Okay, the new customer ID value is not null, then it will be visible. Yes or no, whatever value is there, it will be visible. Okay, so if I say yes, new customer yes and no. Interesting thing about it, if you say yes, look at the clipboard. Do you see cust ID? New cust value is no as well. Nothing happens, right? No customer ID, nothing. Why? Remember, unless you submit it, Pega doesn't communicate with the server. It is on the client side. Okay, so your selection yes or no is not read by this data transform. In fact, actually server call hasn't been made. So whatever you did, it's actually on the browser side. The first change you need to make is you need to send the value. When you want to run some logic on the server based on this value, you need to send this value to the server. How do we do that? In the actions only, on the change, there is an action called post value. You need to do that first. So you post the value. When you post the value, it goes on to the server. Okay, one step at a time, I'm basically taking it. So you posted the value, now it will be available on the server. Let me show you. Okay, yes, the value is yes, that is available on the server. No, on the clipboard. Remember, clipboard is always server data. No, but customer ID is not generated. Customer ID is not generated. You change this, you send the value. Well, actually your screen is loaded. After you are changing certain value and you need to show up some value here from the server, you need to refresh your section. How do we do that? Again, action, you have an option to refresh. You are refreshing the current section, other section, harness is another rule we will talk about. So we will refresh the current section. While refreshing, you can call a data transform as well. So let's remove this data transform call from a separate data transform call and include it during the refresh. During the refresh, we will call this section to generate the customer ID and show us. So we will post the value and we will refresh this in section with these two values. That section will be refreshed and the customer ID values will be shown. Save it. Let's create another case. See? No, it cleaned up the customer ID value and showed you a basically a editable screen. Yes? No. This is exactly what we wanted. So that's done. That's the number one thing. Yes or no? If no, we are generating a customer ID. Sorry, if it is yes, if it is a new customer, we are generating the customer ID. If it is old, then we are asking the user to enter the customer ID. So far, this is one thing. Next thing is that based on the customer ID, we will fetch the record. Let's go back to the Savable data page. We will use the same data page. Okay. But the thing is,
Mahesh, now,
mhm,
sorry, man. Now it will show that customer ID in clipboard, right?
yeah, it will show. Please don't do it
Yes,
parallelly.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're doing it parallelly, just focus here. It's important to understand the concept. You can do that later as well. Okay.
No, no, no. I am not doing it. Yes, I am asking
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be. We saw that, right? If you click on the clipboard. Yeah, sorry, I did not show you that. Let me see. See?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah. All right. Now, actually, you can add more than one data source. So if it is, we will have to do it conditionally. If the update in the update insert data page, you can add alternate data source. If you do alternate data source, then you see you can run conditionally. If if the data is new or if it is new customer, what we can do is we can initialize the data page through a data transform. And if it is old customer, we will continue to use lookup. Correct? So I'm going to create a when rule is new. This is a when rule is new customer. Okay, let me just use is new cust. Is new cust means that the new customer value is, okay, let me do this time from advance. The value of the new customer is going to be, why okay, it is customer, sorry, it's in the different class. So actually we want to run the condition when rule based on the py work page property. So I'm going to add that py work page on the pages and classes. If you need to read any other page from any other class, you need to specify that page name and class. Class is of course CC application, but that is derived from the work hyphen, so you can specify work hyphen. It will see any work class that is named as py work page at the runtime. So at the runtime, it will pick actually this one py work page of this class because it is derived from the work hyphen class. Okay, so py work page, if the property py work page new cust, oh sorry, new cust property is not on the work hyphen class, so we cannot use it this may. So we will have to actually specify the complete class, and the complete class is this. Actually, you can parameterize the new or old as well, but we will do that later. So if the py work page new cust is equal to yes, then it is new customer. So when it is new customer, it's new. The name is new only. Okay, that's fine. So if it is new customer, then instead of calling this one, we will call a data transform and initialize a new record. All we will do is just set up this customer ID on this data page. That's it. We will run a data transform initialize new data transform new customer. This will also accept a parameter. It will ask you to provide a CID parameter. All it will do is it will take the CID and put it on the main page. So this is the customer, right? So it will just initialize the customer ID property from the parameter. That's it. Okay. So it will give you a blank data page with customer ID initialized. Whatever customer ID you will send, that value will be set. Rest of the field will be blank. You need to pass the customer ID here in the data page so that it can in the data transform so that it can initialize. So see, now if it is new, then it is going to run a data transform to just initialize the customer ID, nothing else. If it is old, it will continue to use the database lookup and give you the complete data. That's it. Let's test it. Right? So if I say no, let's test no first. Fetching the record, I'm going to update the email ID once just to check if it is updating that. Good. Email ID should have been updated to Mahesh1. Good. This is done. This is working fine. The old one is working absolutely fine. Let's test the new one. Remember, it will generate a new record. New customer. Continue. See? Auto initialized CID. I mean, this should be read only always. We should make it read only. You select a gender. Fill the record. That's it. I mean, we are just working on the, I'm just working on the customer. I haven't configured the address and employment. You guys should have been doing that already. So that's okay. Good. Do we see a new record? Here you go. Right? A new record popped up. So that's, guys, how we use, how we interact with the database to update a record, to insert a record, a different table basically, not in the same workplace. Okay. How do we insert a new record? How do we update? And most importantly, how do you use the same data page, same section to do both operations? And that's where this session concludes.